We are live in 3, 2, 1. And Bowie Films is live.
Welcome to Legend Talks. I am your host, Michael Bouey. This is my co-host, Emmanuel Pierce. We are doing a couple of tests here just to see if everything is working properly through our live broadcasting capabilities, so to speak. We did have an intro, but there was no music to it.
There
But
was music in the. I actually have another thing. There was music going on the live stream, but
was it 25th?
yeah,
You're positive.
yes, there was music going on the live stream. I had the live stream on another monitor. But us fancy people who know how to use dual monitors and different things like that, you know, we can do stuff like that.
So, I mean, that fixes that test for that. I guess we can jump into the episode then. Well, it's not really an episode, like a pre-episode slash test kind of ordeal. So looking at today, we talked about last time how a legend talks, is geared towards talking about a legend story, which is a book series that I wrote that has 3 books in it. And the purpose of this show is that you'll be able to listen in from the author of the book, as well as my close friend who has read the entire series, and be able to get an understanding, a deeper understanding about characters, events that happen inside of the story, an overall synopsis of each individual book, certain happenings inside of the book, the prequel, if there is going to be a prequel, the future of the book. So there's so many different things that are going to be talked about when we get to the series. I don't want to really uh, delve too much into it now, but I will talk about the origin of how a legend story came about. And then, Manny, do you know the origin about how the book came about?
I feel like we discussed this, but I don't remember.
So I'm going to give the origin about the story, and then you kind of give your feedback. And then also just curious if you've ever had something like that happen to you. So a legend story, this 3 book series, was only meant to be one book, a legend story. And during this time, uh, we had the series where it was something that I couldn't sleep. Like I was in college, and every night I couldn't go to sleep. So my way of going to sleep was coming up with something, like envisioning, like creating this dream, this scene while I'm awake to help put me to sleep. And it was always about like this guy beating up um, people inside of an alley. And it was the same scene, maybe like 3 minutes long. He's like Jackie Chan and beating the shit out of these people. And it was so simplistic, and I would do it every night that I'm not getting sleep. And I was like, this needs to be longer. I can't keep dreaming about this guy beating up people in the alley. And so it grew a little bit like why he went to the alley to beat up these people. What happened afterwards? And that little small scene grew to like a bigger idea. And then it became, well, this could be a really good story. How can I use this and create characters and tell a good story? And at that time, I wanted to do it as a movie. So I wrote the script for it, and I shot the independent feature, funded, wrote, produced, directed, acted in, edited. I did a lot for that production of the film version. And then I took a write, sell, publish class where they explained to me that if you want to copyright, the best way to do it is to write it as a book. So I wrote it as a book for copyright purposes because poor man's copyright won't hold up in court. And after I did all that, um, I just decided I have this book. I had it for like 6 years after I wrote it. I was like, well, what am I gonna do with it? Like, so I ended up publishing it as the first book, and it was just one book. And I had a team of individuals that read the series and they loved it, but they wanted to know more because the first book ends with kind of like a cliffhanger, and people want to know more. And I was like, I don't have more. This is it. This is all you got. And they're like, no, you could take this so much further, and there's what happened to blah blah blah, and this is that. So I was like, all right, this is what I'll do. I'll write a second and a third book and make it a trilogy, one each year for the next 2 years. which I did, and produced A Legend Continues and The Legend Ends. And even after that series, people were like, well, we want to know more about Dominic and why he is the way he is. So I was like, well, crap, I could write about that. And then there's a faction, we'll say, of people inside of that series, and they wanted to know more about that. I was like, I could write a book about that. This world expanded from just a small dream that I would envision when trying to go to bed, and it has grown to something that potentially could be as big as like a Star Wars universe or a MCU universe, because there's so many, like, there's 3 books, there's so many different things going on, so many different people, and you could talk about so many different areas of the world of what other people are dealing with and their story, to where this this was definitely something that could be bigger than what it is of 3 books, possibly 4 books. But that's really the origin about it, and not many people. A lot of people ask me. They said, "Well, how did you come up with it?" And not many people know that it started as a 2, 3, 4 minute dream that grew to like a 20-minute kind of dream that grew to a script, which is not equivalent to like a book. You know, a script might be um, I don't know, maybe like 90 pages long, and the book ended up being like 200 pages long, you know? So there's a huge difference. And even jumping from the first book to now a remaster that's supposed to come out, I've added 40 to 50,000 words. So it's even more detailed and covers a lot more different things within inside the story. So my goal is not really to give too much inside of these pre-shows about like what happened. We're gonna have plenty of time to delve into that. Manny, I know you know what happens, but is there any insight not on the story, but yet like the how this came about? Consider, have you heard that story before? What do you know about it, if anything? What do you think about it? What are your thoughts?
I'm pretty sure this is my first time hearing that story. Um, and I think that it's interesting. I think a lot of people, not to get all philosophical, but there's a life lesson that can be taught from this. A lot of people have have a creative spark and they don't realize what that is. It can come to them in many forms, like a dream or a vision or something, and they don't act on it. And I'm kind of glad you acted on this, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. You know, so words to the wise out there, people. If you have something that you passionate about or you get a creative spark about something, follow it and kind of see where it takes you. As far as like the story in and of itself, I, it's interesting. It's a unique way to come up with. It's a unique way for an idea to happen to you. Um, I don't know that like I have any personal feelings towards it. I think that what has happened, I would consider it like some kind of foreshadowing for the country, and I don't want to get too much into the book, but uh, I think you were being who I believe in God, but whoever you believe in, you were uploaded with from your future self visions of what may come. So
Well,
uh,
it does relate to a lot of things that we're dealing with currently in the political world. And I hate to say politics, because some people that read books, if they're not of a particular politic
mhm.
party or belief, political belief, then they're like, I don't want to read that if it's not my own political belief. But the thing about this is that this is not segregated to one particular kind of political belief. There are
Yeah,
so many different. It covers both of them, and it covers an ideal of not separating and more unifying. And that's something that we really have experienced within the United States of America. You know, in our current time um, period. Last few years and everything. But the thing that I value is that even though it's so closely related, this was written back in like 2006. You know what I mean? And so everything that happened is similar in some way to things that we've endured and experienced currently. Um, so I really value that. And the thing that I was going to say is that I like this show because it's going to be an opportunity for you to kind of boast about me and the product, to talk highly about it.
well, you see, I wouldn't be expecting too much of that. I'm going to talk highly about the book, and that's about it. If
Well,
you're looking for any,
there's somebody that wrote the book,
if
and
you're
so
looking for any pats on the back, you won't be
whoever
getting
wrote
them
the
from
book,
nowhere.
definitely, if you're boasting the book, you
Yeah,
voiced it.
whoever wrote the book, we're not talking about you. We're talking about the
Okay, so you're gonna
material
be
on the
you're gonna be a
pages.
hater as if this is filthy. Okay,
The
so
material. We're talking about the listen. Your head is already big enough. I don't know if you guys see that. It's already big enough.
I don't think
Doesn't
so.
need to be any more
But
big.
the purpose of this show will definitely be to make it bigger because, uh, in my opinion, from what we've talked about, you enjoyed the book thoroughly. What this would be the last thing that I want to cover. What were your thoughts without giving talking about story? We have so many episodes when we start the first episode on about so many different characters and everything to talk about the book and the people in it and the things that happen. But what was your first initial reaction? We might even come back and revisit this, but what was your first initial reaction when you read the first book and or the second book and third book?
I'll talk about instead of talking about and this will be like a little bit of foreshadowing, not giving too much away. I'll talk about the first thing that I said to you after kind of getting into the book, getting a little bit further and getting to the end. I believe the words in the text message were, "I hate you. Why do you give him everything?" So that
I do remember you saying that. I was like, "Can you tell me what you think of the book?" I mean,
so that can kind of give you. I was so invested in him. Like that was the first thing I said to him. I didn't tell him, how good the book was or anything like that. Like that was my first text message. So yeah, highly invested. That was kind of my thoughts. I was just highly invested in the book and like in the characters, and to be able to carry that animosity from the book towards a person that's sitting right here because they like to give certain people who shall remain nameless everything, just all sorts of things that are going on. I want to get in deep, but I'm not going to do it. We're not even at the
we'll
first
have
episode.
plenty of time to discuss your hatred and anger for whatever transpired.
I'm already getting fired up already.
But the thing I love, and I don't know if you apply to it, but I've talked to so many people that have read the first book or the entire series, and many of people, when they bought the first book, they bought it to support me. And they don't necessarily read books at all. They're like, dude, I don't read at all. And literally picked up the book. They get 4, 5 pages in, and they're done. They're hooked. Never read a book. I don't even read books. That's great. I don't even read books, and I wrote 3 of them. But this was something that from the beginning to the end, you're already just sucked into whatever's happening, and there's all kinds of craziness. And I value that because it's not segregated not just to one political party to be appeasing to that particular side. It's to all sides, and it's not appeasing to people that read. It's appeasing to people that don't read. And it has so many. I mean, you talk about saying that it has one message. I think it has many messages in it, and that's another thing that I value. That it can cause somebody that doesn't read or doesn't write to write a full book and cause other people that don't read to pick it up and be hooked into it. Where I had one person doesn't read at all, they read the whole book in like a day or two.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes, and I really think that the world in general, people in general, need this book now more than ever. Not just from a political side, because there's so many different, like I said, messages in it. Somebody could be going through something that one of the other characters are going through, and there's so many wise statements and suggestions and things that are given that I think somebody could be impacted and by and say to themselves about their own life, like that's true, and I should probably think about this different. Like it really, the whole goal and message is to really change people's outlook on everything, um, and that's how we can move to a better a light where we're unified and there's more love. So,
Yeah.
any final
Excited
thoughts?
excited for Legend Talks. If you guys want to see some rants, I would definitely tune in because I got some rants stored up.
Oh, it's gonna get live. I already know when we get to because we break down in like characters. So like one episode, we might just in one episode talk about one character and all about that character and things that happen. So I will tell people if you haven't read this book or this series, yes, you can watch the first couple of episodes where we're just talking about story and it doesn't give much away. But when we start jumping into like individualized characters, it's spoilers all over. We talking about shit that happens. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it because the whole thing is I want people to understand that have read the book to understand it deeper from the author's perspective. Why did you do this? Why did you come up with this kind of ordeal. So, and that's the advantage. And some people can read it as they're going along. Like maybe if we cover everything inside of that first book, and then they decide, I'm gonna watch the first 10 episodes of A Legend Talks, so I can learn more about like why he did this or about that character. So that's kind of the purpose of this. It's almost like a I don't want to say like what do they call that thing? The Cliff Notes kind of
Spark
ordeal.
notes. Spark
Spark
notes.
Notes to a legend
I could
story.
tell. I could tell you had never cheated in high school.
Oh,
Ain't never not read
I
the book and
did.
had to go spark note
I didn't cheat off. See, here's the thing. I didn't cheat off the Spark Note, like read the book and get the Spark Notes. I had
it.
somebody else read the Spark Notes, take the notes, and then I cheated off of them. So it's a big difference. Because like I said, I don't read. So why the hell would I open up Spark Notes to read? I'm not reading this shit. Read
Well,
that.
that's when you
Give me
didn't read the
answers.
book. When you didn't read the book in class, you got to go to the spark notes so that way you can at least kind of be prepared for the test. So,
Well,
you know.
that is definitely the purpose of this. This will become the spark notes to this series. I hope that people enjoy. Hopefully we can get this up and running. Just a couple more trial runs to try and make sure that we have everything fine-tuned. Yes, episode 1's not going to be perfect, but I would like to be as perfect as possible. So this is the purpose of it with the pre-shows. And that's a lot of P's right there. But we definitely are going to have an episode 1 hopefully in the next 3-4 weeks, and we're gonna get right down into the nitty gritty, and Manny will be able to voice his anger and frustration about many a characters and many a situations that happen. So while Boystein, Jaboy. So that's all we have for Legend Talks. Thank you everybody for joining us, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks, guys.